This is not normal. What we're seeing right now in America is unprecedented. A president sending the National Guard into Portland, Oregon, not because of massive riots or a natural disaster, but because of protests against ICE. Federal troops on standby for full-force operations inside an American city. And at the very same time, the Department of Justice pushing forward with a rushed, shaky indictment against former FBI Director James Comey, an indictment that even Trump's own allies are calling weak. Put the two together, and the picture that emerges is a leader openly testing how far he can push executive power, not just at the margins, but far beyond what Americans are used to. And the implications are shocking. This story begins with Portland. The president directed the National Guard to prepare for deployment, claiming protests over ICE had spiraled out of control. But here's the catch. Local officials from the city to the governor's office insist there is no emergency. They argue Trump has no authority to order in the Guard without state approval. The city of Portland is already suing, calling it a violation of state power. Protesters hit the streets again on Sunday, making it clear they see federal troops not as protectors, but as intruders. Meanwhile, in Chicago, ICE agents in tactical gear marched downtown. Lawmakers in Illinois condemned it as intimidation, not real law enforcement. One ICE officer even admitted arrests were being made based on appearance, empowered by the idea that federal authority is unchecked. The Democratic governor pushed back hard, warning that if agents harass civilians and demand papers, that is authoritarianism by definition. He framed it in stark terms. If this happened abroad, Americans would have no trouble recognizing it for what it is. The challenge is recognizing it when it happens at home. Now place this alongside the Comey indictment. Just days ago, Trump's Department of Justice announced charges against the former FBI director. But legal experts across the spectrum, including Republicans, say the case is extraordinarily weak. Even Trump's former defense lawyer compared it to a skeleton with no flesh, calling it authoritarian in nature. The indictment, rushed through after Trump personally demanded it, could collapse before trial. And yet the weakness of the case is not the point. The point is power. Trump is signaling that he can order prosecutions against political enemies, evidence or not, that he can replace career prosecutors with personal loyalists until someone delivers the indictment he wants. In Virginia, the U.S. attorney, a Trump appointee, initially said there was no evidence against Comey. Trump responded by pressuring the attorney general, swapping out the prosecutor for his insurance lawyer, and green-lighting charges anyway. That is not a normal separation of powers. It's a direct line from presidential revenge to criminal prosecution. And it's happening at the same time as federal troop deployments in U.S. cities. Together, they reveal a pattern. The presidency expanding beyond legal limits, using the military and the DOJ not for the public good, but for partisan payback. The story gets darker. Congresswoman Mikie Sherrill, a veteran and Democratic nominee for governor of New Jersey, now says her unredacted military personnel records were illegally released to an ally of her Republican opponent's campaign. These records contained her Social Security number, her parents' home address, private data that federal archives are supposed to protect. A journalist who received the file even warned the campaign it should not be public. But instead of pulling back, they continued to circulate it. Sherrill says this was intentional, not an accident. Think about the precedent. Federal agencies hold enormous amounts of sensitive data about every American. Tax records, military files, medical information. If a sitting administration can weaponize that data against political opponents, there's no line left. Today, it's a member of Congress. Tomorrow, it could be an ordinary citizen. Individually, each of these scandals, troop deployments, partisan indictments, leaked government records, would dominate headlines. Together, they form an unmistakable trend. And the strategy seems deliberate. Pile scandal on scandal so quickly that outrage fatigue sets in. What would be a constitutional crisis one week becomes just background noise the next. Internationally, this damages America's credibility. The U.S. often condemns authoritarian overreach abroad. Yet here, the same behaviors, Troops in the streets, revenge prosecutions, data misuse are unfolding under the American flag. Allies notice, adversaries notice, and the domestic consequences are just as serious. If people accept this as just politics, the guardrails of democracy erode quietly but permanently. So what happens next? The lawsuit in Portland could determine whether the president truly has authority to deploy the Guard without state consent. The Comey case may be thrown out by a judge as unconstitutional, possibly before trial, and the investigation into Sherrill's leaked records could expose whether this was deliberate sabotage ordered from the top. The next 48 hours matter. Courts, lawmakers, and watchdogs are under pressure to respond because each passing day without pushback moves the line further. All eyes are now on whether institutions hold. Will the courts check executive power? Will Congress investigate data misuse? Or will this week's breaking news simply fade into the next crisis? That is the test ahead. What is clear is this: the presidency is being redefined in real time, not through legislation or debate, but through shocking, unilateral actions. If unchecked, this could reshape the future of American politics far beyond one administration. Stay with us for exclusive updates as this story develops. If you found this breakdown useful, hit like, subscribe, and drop a comment below with your thoughts. Do you see this as normal politics, or is it something much bigger?